and welcome to another episode of Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams. I'm your host, Nick Abrams. For nearly 20 years, I've had the pleasure of advising individuals, couples, and business owners on how to make their financial dreams come true. I've done this by helping provide strategies to help clients and individuals empower themselves financially. Unfortunately, I have seen a lot of people who have made mistakes with their finances. Not on purpose, but these mistakes were made because they did not have the tools, knowledge, or resources to empower themselves financially. That's why this show was created. Each episode, we strive to provide you topics and qualified guests who are experts in their field to make sure that they provide you what's needed to help you empower yourself. On today's show, we're going to talk about debt and the importance of getting out of debt. Prior to 2008, the debt rate in the U.S. was at an all-time high. After the Great Recession happened, we saw levels of spending and debt go down instrumentally. However, over the past couple of years, statistics are showing that more consumer spending has been increasing, and with that, debt has been increasing. What's also making the danger signs with this is that over the last year or two, the Federal Reserve is starting to increase interest rates, which affects how much you have to pay back on your debt. So in today's show, we're going to address the issue of debt and the importance of getting out of debt. We have a special guest with us, the legendary William Keating.
Legendary.
How you doing, sir?
Doing
Welcome
good.
to the show.
Nice to see you.
So you're an author, a writer, a speaker, trainer, educator. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Wow. I wouldn't know where to start. This is only, we have more than 30 minutes?
No, we got a short period of time.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think what I'm proudest of is that I've become a consumer advocate for the last 30 years.
Okay.
Helping people to understand a lot of the things that you've talked about, and that is success in this country, as measured financially, is all about your financial education. And if you don't have it, you won't get it. Okay. And
Wow.
that's about as simply as I can put it. So my goal has been and is to educate people to understand how to build wealth in this country.
Okay. Now, I was looking at your bio. You've done some work at Johns Hopkins, I believe.
I taught at Johns Hopkins for 15 years in the graduate MBA program.
Wow. Okay. And prior to that, what were you doing?
I was a senior manager with AT&T for like 24, 23 years. I was the vice president with a local company in Rockville doing special projects for about 6 years.
Okay.
And finally, in the year 2000, I decided to retire.
Okay.
And I'm working harder now than I ever was.
Now, you also train and teach courses on finances and debt. You've done TV shows and workshops. Tell us a little bit about your work in that area.
Well, like I said, my thing really is financial education. And so I've developed a whole series of webinars
Okay.
on a variety of different topics to help people really understand what the issues are and how they can resolve them and get on this path to close the wealth gap that's in this country.
Okay.
That's one of the things I do. Believe it or not, I'm also developed a couple of tutoring courses for individuals seeking to get their Series 6 and Series 7 licenses.
Wow. So you're training other financial advisors.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm training them right, by the way.
Oh, that's a good thing. We need more of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just like to do, since I've been retired, I have a lot of time to do whatever I want to do.
Okay, that's important.
And that's good. And it's all about helping people.
Now, there was two things I saw in your bio that stuck out with me. One was your bowling ability, which I'm jealous of. And then also your golf ability, which I'm even more jealous of. Now, you've bowled a couple 300 games.
Only one. I bowled one 300
game.
game. And in the same year, by the way, I also had a hole-in-one. And a few years later, I had another hole-in-one. So,
wow.
To my credit, I've had 2 hole-in-ones and one 300 bowling game.
I'm jealous already. Well, look, and they call you Professor Bill. Why is that?
Because I taught at Hopkins for 15 years. And so everybody's called Professor at Hopkins. And me especially, because I came into a department under-degreed, if you will.
Okay.
And I'm very proud of it, by the way. So It just goes to show you, some people need it and some don't.
So, Professor Bill, when I was opening the show, I was talking about prior to 2008, we were in a state where consumer spending and debt was really increasing. And what numbers showed was after the recession, debt decreased for a little while, and now those numbers are creasing back up.
Right.
The amount of debt that people are holding. Why are so many people, whether you're educated, uneducated, professional, why are so many people in debt?
Well, let's make sure we understand who's in debt.
Okay.
The rich people don't need it.
All right.
I hate to say poor people, but that's what they are. The poor people can't get it.
Okay.
So that leaves only middle America, me and you, and people like us, okay?
All right.
They own the debt. And what I believe, they don't even know that they're in debt.
Really?
Because to understand the extent you're in debt, it's a mathematical problem. And they don't have enough information to derive those numbers, okay?
Okay.
So what's motivating them to do this is that they've understood this term leveraging. And so what they worry about is, do I have enough money to meet my bills each month?
Okay.
And they've learned that they can take $25 a month and control $3,000. They can take $250, $300 a month and control $17,000, $18,000 This is leveraging.
Okay.
And so what excites them is, can I meet my obligations? They have no clue about what their debt is. They really don't.
Wow.
What they know is how leveraged am I? Is there any discretionary income to take my family out to dinner?
Wow. We're going to come back and dive into that because you already made some points that we've got to spend some time talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, get your pen and paper out, DVR. We've got some good information. If you're in debt, or if you don't even know that you're in debt, you need to be paying attention to this. We're here with Professor Bill, William Keating, to talk about debt and look about what we need to do to get out of debt. I'm Nick Abrams, host of Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams. We're here with Professor Bill. And Professor, before we went to break, you were discussing about people in debt and not even knowing they're in debt. And you said, and you broke it down to 3 categories. That the rich people don't need it.
Right.
The poor people can't get it.
Right.
But it's the middle class, middle America. And we've heard a lot about what's called this shrinking middle class.
Yes.
Does the debt have any relation to that shrinking middle class or vice versa? What's causing the middle class to have so much debt?
Well, I think the middle class is shrinking because all of the wealth in this country is going to the rich.
Okay.
And if you've been following, even as we speak, there's a great move to go through tax reform.
Right.
And the tax reform sends 94% again of all the dollars to the rich. Wow. And so with those kind of dollars flowing to the middle class, it has no choice but to shrink.
So as we look at this and we talk about debt, the middle class is holding most of the debt. Are people trying to get out of debt, and are they successful? Are they not successful? What's
people, a new kid comes along and they look at the budget and say, wow, we need to find $150 a month for this child's education.
Okay.
It's not there. Let's go on a budget diet.
Okay.
And we know about diets, right?
Most of them don't
Okay,
work.
so they go on a budget diet, and what happens? After a couple months, it doesn't work. And at the same time, somebody comes by and say, "Hey, listen, I got a plan to help you with your kids' education," and then what happens? They buy an inferior product which does not service their needs, and they don't find that out for another 15 years. And that's so pathetic, and that's what education does for you. So yes, many of them try. What they don't understand is, what is debt? They don't have appreciation of it. What are the consequences of being in debt? Okay. And then they've come to find out that it's really a mathematical problem.
Okay, so let's hit on that. Number one, what is debt?
Debt is leveraging. It is.
And let me stop you right there.
Yes.
So, Professor, define what leveraging means.
Leveraging is taking $1 and control many dollars.
Okay.
Because if you have a car payment of $200 a month, the total cost of that car is in the thousands.
Right.
So you're taking a couple $100 a month and controlling an asset worth thousands of dollars.
That's depreciating every day.
And it's depreciating.
Depreciating, right.
And so that's basically the definition of leveraging for us.
Okay.
And so we don't really care about debt. What we care about is our ability to continue to leverage.
Okay, we want that car, we need that
Exactly.
car, so I'll make the payments to get the car.
And plus, with leveraging, you can get a BMW. You don't have to worry about driving a Honda Civic.
All right.
Because only a couple $100 more a month. I mean, that's 2 children that won't go to college, but you're taking care of your
immediate need.
I don't know about a need, but want.
Want.
Right.
Okay, want. That's a good way to look at it.
Right.
Okay. So that's it. We're talking about what debt is. So why else aren't people successful in getting
right,
out?
because they don't have the education, they don't know the background, they don't know the consequences of being in debt, such as, one, it's extremely expensive.
And why is that?
It's expensive because if you look at the total payback, if you know how many years are remaining in the bill, which you don't know, by the way, they purposely withhold that from you.
Right.
If you simply multiply that times the number of payments and subtract the current balance, you know what your interest is. And man, sometimes the interest is 1, 2, or 3 times more than the current balance.
Now, we've seen recently the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates. Now, we've been at historical low interest rates for a while, so essentially money's been cheap. You can borrow money, interest rates have been low.
Obama.
Now, these rates are going up.
Yes.
How does that affect that middle-class person who's in debt, where maybe it's credit card or car payment, mortgage? What's the effect of that?
It's going to be devastating. There are 2 big concerns here. That means all new loans will be more expensive.
Wow.
Okay, and that means that these time-sensitive home equity loans will be really expensive. And you add 2 or 3 points of interest on a home equity loan, you have a loan that's almost difficult to pay back.
Wow.
And I forecast the next crisis in this country will be the collapse of the home equity loan market.
Really? So why is that?
Because people will not be able to pay them back.
So what happens if you have a home equity loan and you're not able to pay it back?
The collateral is your home.
Wow.
So we'll see more foreclosures coming up.
Wow. That's powerful. So debt education. How does someone get educated about debt? And what are the tools out there? I've got this debt. I've got these credit cards. I'm trying to make it from day to day. What's out there?
The first problem we have is we don't have enough information about each of our bills.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, we know the balance. Sometimes we know the payment. Sometimes we know the interest rate, maybe.
Maybe, right.
Okay, and that's really all we know. So there are 3 things that we know about it. And unfortunately, we base our decisions on those 3 things.
Right.
If you want to know which bill do you want to pay down first, everybody says pay down the bill with the highest interest rate.
Okay.
Some people say pay down the bill with the highest balance. Well, if you had more information, you'd make a very different decision. For instance, if you could determine the mathematical solution to number of remaining payments, you would almost come up with a new measurement called the payback ratio.
Hold that thought, because we're going to talk more about that, about understanding how to get out of debt and some strategies around that, because I know you've written a book on this called Leverage to the Hilt. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Ladies and gentlemen, as I told you, you're in for a treat right now. I'm Nick Abrams. We'll be right back. Hello, this is Nick Abrams, host of Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams, and this is your financial tip of the day. Creating an emergency fund can be very important. It can help prevent you accumulating more debt. What is an emergency fund? It's that I don't know what that is fund. You're driving down the street and your car makes a noise and you've got to put it in the shop and they give you a bill for $400 or $500. That emergency fund is there to help pay for that instead of using your credit card. Generally, if you're single, you should have 3 months of your expenses in an emergency fund. So these are for any types of things that happen around the house, the car, or for some reason you should lose your job or have some financial hardship. If you're married with kids, that number grows to 6 or 9 months of your expenses set aside. Now that money should be kept in some type of savings, checking, money market, or short-term CD. Why? Because you want to be able to access that money with very little penalties or no penalties at all. That money should be kept liquid so when you need it, you have access to it. Remember, having that emergency fund can help save you from using those credit cards and paying back high interest rates on that. This is your financial tip of the day, and I'm Nick Abrams. Welcome back to Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams, here with William Keating, Professor Bill, as we all call him. Wanted to touch back, Professor, on the consequences of debt, because I think it's very important that our viewers out there understand the consequences of the debt that they're in, or they might be thinking about they're getting in.
Yeah, that's a great topic, because what we don't appreciate, especially if we are leveraged, there's no more discretionary income in our budget.
Right.
That means a lot of things that we consider wealth building exercises don't happen. We don't put money aside for our kids. We don't have emergency fund.
Okay.
We can't even increase our payments to our TSP or our 401k or 403b, whichever it may be. We don't take vacations without them being charged. Okay.
Which adds on to the problem.
Exactly,
Okay.
and so we're slaves to the financial institutions of this country.
Wow.
We're not free.
Now you invented something called the Payback Ratio.
Yes.
I'm curious about this.
Yes.
Talk to me about the Payback
There
Ratio.
was a time when everybody, this thing was first started with, if you had a bill or a bunch of bills, which bill would you pay down? Given that you had extra dollars, okay?
Right.
If you had an extra $25 this month, which bills to get it? Well, most people, and even the professionals, say you should pay down the bill with the highest interest rate.
Right.
Others say it's the lowest balance, the highest balance, all over the place. So when I was writing this book many, many years ago, it put me in a position to do a lot of discovery, if you will.
Okay.
And I discovered that there is a common measurement for all bills, and I called it the payback ratio. And to get the payback ratio, it's a kind of a mathematical thing, because you have to find the number of remaining payments, which then allows you to find the total payback, and it's the ratio of the total payback to the current balance.
Ooh.
And it answers the question, how many times will I pay back the current balance? That's what the payback ratio is.
Wow.
So if you have a payback ratio of 3, that means if you owe $2,000, you're going to pay it back 3 times.
Wow. So what you're saying is I've got a bill, let's say credit card that I owe $2,000 on, and I'm making the payments each month.
Right.
That ratio will make me look and see that I'm actually paying $6,000
Exactly.
back on
As a matter of fact, that's
$2,000.
exactly what it's going to be. Wow. And that's a wake-up call. And not only that, it answers another question. If I want to charge something, which card should I use? The one with the highest payback ratio or the one with the lowest?
Wow.
And so there's lots of applications for this payback ratio, and I take credit for that. I really do.
Okay. So let's talk about some steps to becoming debt-free.
Right. I think the first step is to realize that it's not going to be an easy task.
Okay.
The second test is that you promise not to get discouraged if it doesn't work the first time.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, please don't get discouraged the first time. I mean, you know, you've been educated to do your job. You have instincts to raise children and so forth. Nothing has prepared you to manage this problem of debt. And yet, you were talking about managing over $1 million in your lifetime, and you want to invest, what, 15 minutes, an hour, two? That's the problem, okay?
Okay.
And so you're destined for failure, so you need to prepare yourself. There's all kinds of courses out there. I do webinars, and you know, there's a lot of information out there. But more importantly, you need a tool that takes all the mathematics out of the equations.
Okay.
Because this is a math problem, okay?
Wow. I've never heard that explained the way you explain it. Is there life after debt? And what does that look like?
Life after debt is beautiful, and you can look at people who are out of debt. They're always smiling, okay? And they take vacations, and the kids are happy. The pension plan is maxed out. I mean, it's wonderful. And sometimes they get really kind of nasty because when they retire, they moon people, you know? That's how good it is.
So any lasting tips, last minute, 2 or 3 things that you want to stress to our viewers?
Yeah, the last thing I would stress is that once you become debt-free, what most people will find is that you will free up $800 to $2,000 each and every month that goes into your household budget.
Say that again.
Yeah, become debt-free, you will free up $800 to $2,000 plus each and every month. And this money will flow into the household budget. What do we use it for now? This is discretionary income. Well, we can use $2,000 a month for kids' education, a supplemental retirement plan to begin to build our emergency fund.
Right.
Okay, take a vacation without paying, doing it on credit for a change.
Wow.
And start robbing God. You got to put your 10% in, okay, and tithe because you're going to get the many, many more returns. Trust me.
Wow. Professor William Keating.
Amen.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show. If the viewers want to find out more about you, contact you, how can they do that?
Best thing to do is send me an email.
Okay.
The email address is very simple. It's profbill@msn.com.
And that's PROF?
PROF, Bill, BILL. If you're really adventurous, go to my website,
Okay.
which is pretty easy to remember too. It's a long title, but it's webinarswithprofessorbill.com.
All right.
Can't beat that.
Professor Bill, thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Viewers, I hope you've gotten a wealth of information from this particular program, looking at strategies about getting out of debt. As you heard from Professor Bill, it can free up an extra $800 to $2,000 per month. And think about what your life would be like if you had an extra $800 to $2,000 per month. I'm Nick Abrams, host of Financial Empowerment with Nick Abrams. We thank you so much for tuning in. Be blessed.